Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. We're back with our weekly crypto news with Michael, our head of written research over on the platform, pumping out all that alpha daily. How's things, Michael?
Man, we are on the pendulum back and forward on news this week, aren't we?
Oh yeah, dips below 100,000, back up to 106. World War Three is about to start now. We've got a ceasefire. It's just crazy times.
First ever president to drop an F-bomb on camera.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that, I thought, oh, this has got to be AI, but sure enough, it was real.
No, real. I was watching it live actually. Yeah, crazy.
All right, where do you want to start? We've got plenty of altcoin news to get through, as always, but I'll let you bring up
Yep.
the tabs.
Yeah, so we'll obviously check the charts to start with. So yeah, like you said, back up above 106. Surprisingly, again, everything's very resilient. Like we were expecting a capitulation like on grand scale. And I think again in previous cycles, we would have seen a 30% drawdown, you know, something of this magnitude happens and the crypto market nukes itself. So we're seeing resilience is what we're seeing, and that's very interesting. Not just on Bitcoin, but like on a lot of the alts as well. We're seeing some good resilience.
Yeah, we touched on this in last night's video with Martin North as well, how stock markets are still sitting at record highs when we're talking about like nuking and World War Three starting. This is the world that we've been talking about for years now, where like the mainstream can be in complete recession, the cost of living and everything. But everything now on Wall Street is just fake money and AI and algorithms and at record highs. And there's just this complete disconnect between the kind of investing world and asset prices versus the real world.
There's a really cool, interesting YouTube video I saw the other day. I think it was, I have to find the link to it, or maybe I can chuck it in the chat. But just really explains how, like, who the whole world is indebted to. And when we're talking about the trillions and trillions of dollars that the whole world economy is indebted to, it's really that money is not money. Like, really, now bonds are money. And that's the currency that people and countries and nation states all want to hold. Yeah. And watch for the tokenization of that shortly.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously we touched on this already, but like we're in war, we're dropping bunker bombs, we're bunker busting bombs, we're out of war, we're back in war. Trump's dropping F bombs, saying that he's been out angry at Israel, and now we're back in a ceasefire again. So I mean, who knows what happens from here? But yeah, crazy times. Tim Draper is a pretty famous investor. He has been a Bitcoin bull for quite some time, but yeah, it's talking about how, like, 61% market share on market dominance on Bitcoin. So this just shows that like the pivot towards quality assets, and we saw that phraseology back in the day from Larry Fink saying the flight to quality or the flight to safety, which used to be gold. And I think by the end of this cycle, Bitcoin is fully entrenched as that store of value and flight to safety.
Yeah, well, I think we touched on last week Tim Draper mentioning that they were backing stacks, and then this has kind of been our thesis for the past 2 or 3 years as well, as the gravitational pull, as he puts it, of Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance, and now we've got the smart contracts and Bitcoin DeFi that's all being built. I've got Botanics coming on the show again next week. Their mainnet's going live, so it's going to be all about Bitcoin DeFi and Bitcoin Layer 2s for sure, as we've been saying for a long while. Yeah.
One article that you shared with me this week is that the top 10 altcoins that have had developer focus. And so this is a really interesting metric, which I've tracked in the past, about where's the activity going? So where are people building? And obviously, this is not very Bitcoin centric. This is smart contract layers. But you can see it here that like Ethereum is the winner with, like, 157 projects on Ethereum, but there was a decrease. And we've seen a lot of development uptick in other chains. I think the one to probably track here is ecosystems, with Ethereum ecosystem still like smashing everything else as far as actual developer activity. But then some really, really interesting ones like ICP, which is one that I've had some exposure to, but it's probably not a very like talked about project, but has a very vibrant developer community. And I do see them spraying money all over the developing world, especially where we live in Southeast Asia. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the Polkadot ecosystem. No one's surprised by that. But yeah, it just shows that on the core chain and then all of the other ecosystem around it, like a lot of activity. And then you can see Cosmos, Cardano, and then some of the other like Chainlink building out its own ecosystem as well. Some of these are like very Ethereum attributed, like Arbitrum building its own L3s now, sort of trying to be like layers on layers on layers. But It shows where the developers are going, where they're building. And the elephant in the room here is where's Solana?
Yeah, I wonder if they can't get the Solana data or something, but I'm super surprised that Solana's not in that top 10. I have to ask Jason
It's,
about that.
yeah, me too. And even Sui as well. Like, these are the two hot chains that everyone say are going to put pressure on Ethereum market share, but don't appear here.
Mm.
That's not to say that they aren't there, but yeah, interestingly, they're not there. Um, so Kobe, for those who don't know who Kobe is, he used to go by Crypto Cobain. He's one of the OG Twitter influencer crypto dudes. He's made a stack of money and a lot of, a lot of successful trades along the journey. There's a crazy live stream. I don't know if you've seen this, where he had like all of the convicts of crypto all came on a live stream last cycle. And he had, he's got like I'm having mental blanks right now of like Suzu and
Was this during
uh,
the FTX crash when they had that?
yes,
Yeah, yeah, I
yes,
remember seeing
yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And he's got them all on live stream. So he pulls weight. Everyone comes and listens to what he has to say. But, interesting post that he had this week saying if you had to hold crypto for a 3 to 5 year time horizon, like what would you hold? If it couldn't be Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, and ironically, he puts in Hyperliquid in here as well. And to save everyone the reading, he pretty much goes through, and most people are talking like it's all of like the blue chip Ethereum DeFi projects. Aave, Uniswap, Pendle, EtherFi, like some of the real blue chip, which shows that there's a real pivot back towards fundamentals. And I thought that that was a very interesting thing to note that, Bitcoin DeFi, especially as they get regulatory clarity, it looks like that we're going to have a bit of a pivot towards these protocols. And as we have speculated almost every week for the last few months, that if these protocols share revenue, then they become as powerful as the banks.
Yeah, now we've got just so many coins in that dilution, then yeah, it's going to pivot back to fundamentals and what's the next layer of blue chips and who's making money.
So we ripped through a couple of these ones because they're all interesting notes, but not necessarily like in the realm of like massive news. But like Eigenlayer was really hyped last cycle about it was going to take away the data congesting that you had on the Ethereum mainnet and offload it somewhere else. So you could still settle your transactions on Ethereum, but all of the storage would happen elsewhere. And they got hugely hyped, the token pumped, but they're coming out now and saying that they're very AI focused and that they've got a new service where people can build on Eigenlayer and it's all going to be recorded and trying to prep themselves towards that AI pivot. Um, Inc. I thought this was very interesting. So what Base has done, what Coinbase has done with Base, is effectively copied the same model as what Binance did with Binance Smart Chain. And so you've got this massive exchange. They launched their own sort of chain, and then they kind of insulate themselves from being blockbustered a little bit. So Inc. is that version for Kraken, and so you can see the theme there going from the Kraken to the Inc. I think that this is going to be hugely successful, and there's going to be a lot of money thrown on top of it. So they're in L2. They're launching. I think they're part of the OP tech stack, so they'll be in that sort of same realm with Optimism and Coinbase and Inc. that they can all be interoperable with each other. But I would pay attention to what's happening here. There's a lot of money that's going to flow there because Kraken's got
And this
huge war
is
chest.
and this is separate to Kraken announcing they want to launch their own exchange token as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So this was also interesting that like it's now being rumored that X will start allowing direct stock trading and investing straight from the app. And Elon hasn't been shy about this, that he's always wanted X to be the everything app. I think he's got some Chinese inspiration. Is it WeChat over in China that you can kind of do everything in, run your whole life from it?
Yeah, there's a couple that dominate like 90% plus, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is the long-term vision for X, in addition to all of the data mining that you get for AI models. But it's coming to X. Um, and another one here as well. So Jump Crypto, for those that don't know, they are a VC firm and they're heavily invested in the Solana ecosystem. They're the ones who are building Fire Dancer, which is the new Solana validator. And they also, I think, the Wormhole Bridge, the main backer of. So they're talking about now how they're excited to sort of pump out a lot of stuff with Aptos. And they're looking to really start making new investments in the space as well. These guys have got deep pockets.
Nice. Time to get bullish on altcoins.
Um, So Celestia is another one who was kind of in that bracket with Eigenlayer, that data availability type sort of play, liquid restaking, so you could stake tokens and then stake them again. They're talking about some big changes as well with, changing their governance and inflation model from 5% to a quarter of a percent. So these are like last cycle tokens who were very hyped and had some decent narrative and fundamentals, are making big pivots. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's another Celestia season because there's a lot of chains that were building on them or with them.
And that was one of the biggest airdrops as well from last cycle, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a monster. And another real interesting one here as I load. So talking about how like Paradigm has raised a whole bunch of money here for GTE. And so this is all going to be like new products that they're trying to think. This is going to be on the Mega ETH chain, and they're trying to build like a really fast DEX. So just another Ethereum L2 that's got like huge investment. Where these protocols are going to get real big infrastructure. And I do see it that this is the way that people are like combating banks right now, is that they can go and build these DeFi protocols on the Ethereum L2 and watch them rip. And yeah, ironically, I think this kind of matches with what's happening in Australia right now. We talked about in your Martin North episode about how CommBank is at just like all-time high crazy valuations right now and has now become Australia's biggest company over mining stocks.
Yeah, that is
All kind of,
insane,
all kind of,
isn't it?
all kind of fits in the narrative. And you see these investors, they're looking for DeFi now, DeFi investments, and to be the new banking layer.
Yeah, and Ethereum needs to make itself as clean and fast as SOL and Sui and all these other competitors now. So that's good to see as well with that user friendliness. The same with Stacks and all these. It's just got to get to the point where it's just so slick and seamless. The average person feels like they're using a normal app.
I think the trend that we see as well is that gas fees will go to zero, or everyone have to use kind of like what the ICP model is, where for those that've never used it, it's the developer pays the gas or the app pays the gas and they load it like pre-credit. And so when you go, you just use it and it comes off of prepaid credits that the app actually has to pay for. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if we trend towards that direction.
Fantastic. Guys, well, head over to nuggetsnews.com.au for our free newsletter, all our premium research, or our VIP high net worth services. But Michael, thanks as always for the chat, and we'll see you again next week.